This is the Fifth Estate Winning Headlines, your media police post. Brought to you by the Fort Hall School of Government, coming to you from Nairobi, Kenya. In this segment, we summarize some of the headlines that you might have missed this morning, but we also take a look at the political pieces that we call cartoons in this country. Today is the 27th of July, 2020, and I am 2J.
I'm Tom.
And I am GK, and in case you missed the headlines, here they are. In the Daily Nation, big test for Uhuru, Raila, and DP Ruto. In the Standard, no rest for Raila. And in the Star, counties may soon get okay for bank loans.
Yes.
But we had a fellow Kenyan give us a speech today. Our president today gave a statement, sort of reassessing 21 days since we de-escalated some of the measures that were in place. So he outlined about 6 things. I'll go through them very quickly. Curfew remains in force for a further 30 days. No sale of alcohol. This is a new one in eateries. Closing time for eateries is now 7 p.m.
Yes.
Oh, is it 8 p.m.? 7 p.m.
7:30,
Yeah, from 8 p.m. to 7 p.m.
And all bars are closed till further notice. And then there's going to be a withdrawal of licenses of bars who flout these rules. And that thing will be permanent. That is the catch there. And he kept emphasizing that we will spare no mheshimiwa and no mwananchi. Now, I know a lot of you want to blame Johnson Sakaja.
Yes, it's his fault. Let's just say it.
But he reiterated it more than once that, you know, this thing is for all of us, irregardless of your political and social standing. But he sort of put it into context. He says we can go the Brazil way, where there are mass graves and these unceremonial sort of burials.
Night burials.
And he says we're at war, and so we need to stick together in this war. And that we're fighting sort of an invisible, unrelentless enemy. And so we have to stick together. So I know Kenyans will feel the pinch, especially those in the retail.
Restaurant business.
The restaurant business.
However, I think ultimately it was a good move to make. I guess it is unfortunate, as you're saying, for the restaurant business. Reports came out last week that domestic tourism was up 40%. People are now beginning to move out of counties again. So I guess we'll see what happens to restaurants and hotels as people, you have patrons coming in, but they're not buying any drinks. And we all know that's where they make their money.
You can only buy 2 sausages now.
Well, Kagwe special.
The Kagwe special. In the meantime, let's return to the headlines. We have in the Daily Nation the big test for Uhuru, Raila, and DP Ruto. So the Commission of Revenue Allocation has come up with its third formula that is to be passed tomorrow. And this formula is supposed to basically inform spending for 5 years, or the disbursement for 5 years to the counties. And this formula will be population driven, which I think people have been seeing the one vote, one man, one vote,
1 shilling.
1 shilling.
Yes, and so basically they're saying, listen, we won't have a situation anymore where the Lamu has a higher per capita spend than Nairobi. And the idea here is to balance the principle of capacity and effort. So we're saying, we want to reward the counties who are sort of doing well on their own, but we also don't want to leave them out just because they have a low population. But we also have to have a core principle where cash follows function. Where there are more people, they should really deserve more money.
Absolutely.
And I think using land mass and other things maybe hasn't worked out so well in previous formulas. But I think the Standard, which is the next one, is saying that Raila was to be the tiebreaker.
Absolutely. And he was actually cornered today. But before I say why, let me just read the Standard headline. No rest for Raila. Now, apparently he was brought into this furore over this the CRA formula, the one you've just spoken about. And because part of his team, Senator James Orengo and some senators were saying that they really don't support this CRA formula. But just today, Raila Odinga released a statement. I saw it on Facebook. And he said, and he whipped his troops in order, and he told them, we must pass this new CRA thing. And I think he was put into a position saying, now, if you're going to be ceremonial president, for example, and you're going to have a parliamentary system, it is the same people who are going to make you ceremonial president. And let me tell you where we are going now. This, and I said it last week, this is the precursor to proportional representation.
Yeah.
This is where we are going.
Yeah.
And if people are taking on Kikuyus right now for saying that this
one
CRA
shilling, one
formula,
vote,
is biased, another storm is coming, which you may have to stop.
Yeah, true, and I completely agree with you. I think that this CRA formula is part of a bigger equation, and that equation equals BBI. And I think if people didn't think it was going to happen, as you're saying, this is how it starts. And I think if this formula is to be applied for the next 5 years, it's the next 5 years of a new dispensation, not the next 5 years of what we currently have. So join the matatu.
Join the matatu, join the bus.
I like what Raila said about counties being able to sort of now raise your own revenues, and that's the future of devolution.
Absolutely.
That you shouldn't look to big brother national government.
Absolutely.
Constantly.
And I think that goes well into our star.
Yes, the star.
Counties
may soon get okay for bank loans. Because of course the counties have been suffering for a lack of cash and the inability to borrow. But now with this new proposal, the Public Debt and Borrowing Policy 2020, counties will be allowed to borrow. I think what was interesting is you're seeing a sense of checks and balances, because what they say is that the monies will only be applied to fund projects that demonstrate potential compensating revenue streams or credible environmental protection value. So we're saying, yes, you will now have access to lines of credit, but they're only to be for specific things.
Projects.
The next thing, which I think is quite important, is that the guarantor for these loans that they may be able to take will be the national government. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Let me tell you, on paper, this is a fantastic thing. But let me tell you, giving loans, allowing counties to go for bank loans is the quickest way to privatization. Let me tell you.
So you want us to distract first?
The biggest lie we were told is that representation is what will take this country forward. This cannot have 47 counties. It's too expensive, for goodness sake. That public expenditure we have, the reason it is that way is because of these counties.
But listen to what GK is saying. We have to self-destruct first. Because if anything, this new proposal just sounds like CRA, but with a private bank account, right? So before we were getting it from the national government, now we're going to be getting it from someone else. It's just...
If counties cannot be able to pay pending bills
as they can right
now, and
so
now you're giving them
let them take a private loan, so they can't pay it either way.
And let me tell you, the beauty about it is when the banks move in to attach their assets, then we are going to realize how devolution has been good to us.
Self-destruction.
Well, we have a 3-part criteria that we will use to break down those headlines. We will ask ourselves, is it topical or speculative? Is it repetitive or groundbreaking? And is it thoughtful or just plain lazy? I thought they were all good, all food for thought. I quite like the standard, no rest for Raila.
I like it as
because
well.
we really had to pull him back from his
holiday.
rest and relaxation to break the impasse.
And I'm sure he just made a decision. Just pass it. He needs to go back to wherever he was to have some mojitos.
Some mojitos as well. Okay.
No more mojitos.
Can we give... Can we give the standard our winning headline, please?
Yes.
There you have it. On to the political pieces that we call cartoons in this country, where we also have a 3-part criteria. We ask ourselves, is it humorous or dry? Is it satirical or pessimistic? And is it effective or just plain lazy?
Now, this is Iga, and he's drawing of a comic strip, Kenyan on phone, saying, I'm yet to know anyone who's infected. And he goes about his business without a mask. Meets people, and he says, I'm yet to see anyone who's infected. And before you know it, he cannot breathe. He says, help, I can't breathe.
He's been crushed.
But it's a very true commentary. A lot of people have thought COVID will not reach you, but the reality is either one of us will know somebody.
Who knows somebody.
Who knows somebody. Like the video says.
Yes, it's getting very close to home.
Getting very real. Okay, maybe we can park it.
Yes.
In the standard, we have 2 askaris and Lady Justice there. And she's saying he's saying that's the wrong way of wearing a mask. We have to take you in.
Of course, because with Lady Justice, her eyes are
the ones that are blindfolded.
They're blinded,
So basically probably commentary on how police brutality, police exploiting people over how they're wearing their masks. Maybe
I think they're misunderstanding right from wrong, sense from ignorance. I don't know. It's just a lot of... It's an interesting cartoon.
It's a little bit pessimistic.
Yes. I think so as well.
So in the star...
Blame it on the alcohol.
It's
a caricature.
You guys should start a band.
You're going to start one. You've been practicing. Caricature of Governor Mike Sonko and caricature of Mutahi Kagwe, CS Health. And, oh God.
They each have a wrecking ball.
Yes. So Sonko, is that a wrecking ball?
Yeah, but it's a bomb.
But it's labeled NMS. The other wrecking ball is Corona. And in between them is a chupa of alcohol. And
it's empty.
It's empty.
And it's saying it's your fault.
It's your fault. I think context of this is Mike Sonko said that he
what to a state house.
They gave him alcohol.
Well, I'm confused.
He said by the time he was signing, he was seeing zigzag.
He was seeing zigzag. And,
that really made my weekend.
Yeah, and CS Kagwe is blaming alcohol for the spread
of Corona.
Yeah, for flouting.
Yeah, I mean, Corona is a social disease, so where you move is where it will go.
Yeah, that's true.
As for Sonko, I keep saying he deserves his city back.
Let me tell you,
we cannot overturn the democratic will of
Let me tell you, democracy is overrated. In just over 100 days, you see what that NMS has done?
Yeah,
For goodness sake,
exactly.
I will never vote for a charlatan again.
Yeah.
I like Sonko, but I don't think...
Really, you like him?
I mean, I like him as a person, but I don't think he should be at that kind of level.
Honestly, he sounds more and more ridiculous by the day. I think at this point he should just
Can we give
talking.
the star our winning cartoon, please?
Yes.
There you have it, Ozone with our winning cartoon. Now for our final thought, but before we get there, please subscribe to our YouTube channel.
And now, our final thought, it is inspired by a book entitled Talk Like Ted. The 9 Public Speaking Secrets of the World's Top Minds by Carmine Gallo.
Carmine,
I think.
It's a man or woman?
It's a male.
It's a male. Are they Somali?
Oh my goodness. All right. Let's get into more intelligent conversation, right?
Thank you.
Like Ted.
Yes.
So I'll just read first what he says in the first sentence of the book, because I think it really captures what he was trying to get at. He says that ideas are the currency of the 21st century. Some people are exceptionally good at presenting their ideas, because in order to succeed, you need to be able to sell your ideas persuasively. There's nothing more inspiring than a bold idea delivered by a great speaker. And so he talks about the TED conference in this book, which started in 2006. And so it began by streaming 18-minute presentations from the world's top minds for free. And even to this day, it's still free. So today, they are viewed more than 2 million times per day, and they have become the gold standard in public speaking and presentation skills. I tried to look up the most recent numbers. In 2013, they had averaged 1 billion views, and I think as of 2020, they're approaching 2 billion views.
Wow.
So that's a lot of them, yeah? So after analyzing more than 500 TED presentations, which was about 150 hours, and speaking directly to some of the most successful TED speakers, Gallo discovered that the most popular TED presentations shared 9 common elements. And so this guy called Richard Wurman created the TED conference in 1984, and it was meant to be a one-time event. And then 6 years later, it was reinvented as a 4-day event in California. So for $475, that's close to 50,000 shillings.
Yeah.
Wow. Attendees could watch a variety of lectures on topics covering technology, education, and design. And that's where we get the name TED. So Gallo broke down hundreds. Did you know that?
No.
Okay.
Keep learning.
I thought it was a guy called Ted.
Yeah, I actually thought he was called Ted Kamau.
Anyway, he's broken down hundreds of TED Talks and interviewed the most popular TED presenters, as well as top researchers in the field of psychology, communications, and neuroscience to reveal the secrets of these TED presentations. So this book is divided into 3 parts, each revealing the components that he found in these successful speeches. And they are emotional, novel, and memorable. Emotional because it touches the heart, novel because it teaches you something new, and memorable because they present content in a way that the person receiving the information will not forget. So of these 9 public speaking secrets, we'll be covering a majority of them this week. But the 3 that I really liked were tell 3 stories. He talks about the power of 3.
Yeah.
Practice relentlessly, which I believe 2M will cover. Use humor without telling a joke. I think that's a very powerful one, making your audience laugh without, a punchline.
Yeah.
And stick to the 18-minute rule. I think you'll notice that most TED videos average 15 to 20 minutes. And one thing that I really he talks about the Greek philosopher Aristotle, who is considered to be one of the founding fathers of communication theory. He believed that persuasion occurred when 3 components were represented. He called them ethos, logos, and pathos. Ethos is credibility. We tend to agree with people who we respect for their views. You tend to trust a lawyer for legal terms rather than a journalist.
Yeah.
Logos, which is the means of persuasion through logic, through data, through statistics. And finally, pathos, which is an act of appealing to emotions. And I'd say that the most important thing he says is, does your argument or your presentation have the quality of pathos. Pathos, you need to focus on that. Focus on appealing to people's emotions. Appeal, yes, to the brain, but also to the heart.
To the heart.
Fantastic.
Fantastic. So I read a bit about how to be novel, right? And he says novelty recognition is something that's hardwired in human brains. We are trained to look out for things that are brilliant, new, delicious, that kind of newness. And so he says if you have a talk or you're doing a pitch or a presentation, reveal information that's completely new to your audience. Or you can get old information, package it differently, and it offers a fresh new way to look at an old problem, how to solve an old problem. The second thing he says is deliver jaw-dropping moments. So the jaw-dropping moment in a presentation is when the presenter delivers something very shocking, impressive, and very surprising. And it's so moving and memorable that when people leave, they're still talking about it, and it stays with them for a while longer. So there's a famous TED Talk where Bill Gates has a glass orb, and he lifts it up, and mosquitoes fly out into the audience in the West. And he was basically giving a presentation, I think, about malaria and saying, if it can happen in Africa, why can't it happen here? And sort of, unleash the mosquitoes onto these wazungus. But it had that shock and awe value to it, right? And I think Steve Jobs was also very good at unveiling his products. He had that shocking moment. The third thing he says is lighten up, but that's what 2J was saying. Don't take yourself too seriously. The brain loves humor. So when you give your audience something to smile about, the message stays with them. And then he says, have a Twitter-friendly headline. So he says, if you can't explain your big idea in 140 characters or less, then you need to keep working on your message. And he says, this discipline brings clarity to your presentation, and it helps your audience recall that one big idea, that one key message that you want them to take away. And he says that before a presentation, ask yourself, what's the one thing I want people to take away from this? And the answer shouldn't be many things. If people are sort of struggling, then you haven't done your messaging correctly. And so he says that it's not the accumulation of little things, it's the one big idea that the brain sort of sticks with. So he says the 140 rule is really critical. In fact, 1,500 TED Talks have titles that are 140 characters or less. And there's only one of the longest titles is 3 predictions on the future of Iran and the math to back it up. But he says that this one works because it contains a rhetorical statement that makes it easy to remember, and that's to do with the rule of 3 that 2J had mentioned. But the idea is that each title you give to your message should have a promise of something new, that it will teach the audience something new. So some TED Talks that have come up, The Surprising Science of Happiness by Dan Gilbert and The Power of Introverts by Susan Cain. So just to summarize, the idea of the Twitter headline rule is make it easier for your audience to process content. Finito.
Very good. Now, I was doing secret number 3, practicing relentlessly. Is that correct, 2J? Now, I said, always keep learning. And he says, your brain never stops growing. And that is very true. So he says, thanks to the study of neuroplasticity, scientists are finding that the brain actually grows and changes in form throughout your life. But it's because of intense repetition of a task. Right, it creates a new, stronger neural pathways in the brain. Now, as a person becomes an expert in a particular area, be it music, be it sports, be it public speaking, the areas of the brain associated with these skills actually grow. Now, called Dr. Pascal Michelon, right, compared the hippocampus of the brain of bus drivers and taxi drivers in London. All right. Now, he said, compared to bus drivers, London taxi drivers had a larger hippocampus in the posterior region of the brain, it's at the back of the head. In the posterior region of the brain. The hippocampus has a specialized role in developing the skill used to navigate routes, whereby the bus drivers' hippocampi was understimulated because they drove the same route day after day. Now, a taxi driver wakes up, he's told, can you take me to Oxford Street, where he goes.
And he has to be clever about finding the route.
Yes, precisely.
Because stuck in traffic.
Because the hippocampus is related to memory.
Precisely.
And so the test that the taxi driver drivers in London do is called the knowledge test. And so unlike bus drivers, as you're saying, who have the same route from point A to point B every day, taxi drivers have to learn every single route in London. You have to know all the little panya routes and the long routes.
Absolutely.
So it helps with your memory.
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
And he also says scientists also found out that the grey matter involved in playing music was highest in professional musicians who practiced more than 1 hour a day, intermediate in amateur musicians, and lowest in non-musicians. Right? And then he finishes by saying, learning a new skill and repeating the skills over and over builds new pathways in the brain. That is very simple. This is it's a lesson to all of us. Even if you're doing public speaking, I'm sure all these fellows who do public speaking at TED Talks, those guys practice like hell in front of me every single day. And you pretend like you have an audience in front of you. You put in the humor, you'll actually realize within probably a week you are comfortable enough to go in front of a crowd and say whatever you have to say.
Exactly.
That's so true.
So on a day where we had a winning headline from, was it the Standard? Yes, and a winning cartoon from the Star, I want to leave you with this. This whole week we'll be listening to interesting stories from the TED stage, but the important thing, even if you never make it to the TED stage, is to know that you are still alive. And that means your life has purpose. You are meant for greatness, so don't sabotage your potential because you can't communicate your ideas at whatever level. And so we all have the ability to push the limits of our human potential, and so we should always strive. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, but find us on TV. We're on GoTV, Prime Free to Air, and Star Times. Have a lovely evening.